Everyone, thanks for joining us. I know it's late after, early afternoon in India, late afternoon in Southeast Asia, and early in the day in the Middle East. So, thanks for joining us from across, folks. We'll have Pratik and Harveer from Tata Digital joining me today in a freewheeling conversation. We've Harveer with us right now. Pratik is joining in a bit. So Harveer is the Chief Business Officer at Tata Digital. He heads the NeoPass and the Tata Pay parts of Tata Digital. Harveer was part of the founding team at Tata Digital, joining them as the Chief Product Officer in 2020. A lot of very innovative pieces around a unified customer view across, loyalty, pay. All of that has been built by Harveer and his team. Harveer comes with 2 decades of experience in digital payments, consumer internet, and a very, very rich treasure trove of war stories over the years. Before Tata Digital, Harveer used to head digital solutions for MasterCard for India and South Asia. Harveer is a silver medalist from Punjab Technical University and an alumni of IIM Ahmedabad. With that, Harveer, please, thanks so much for joining us today. Harveer, so a lot of the audience have had this question of, why a super app? What does the Tata Super App have? Right? What does Neo actually have in it? So thanks for agreeing to do a quick knowledge sharing session of about 15 minutes or so. So team, Harveer has been kind enough to say we'll have a quick knowledge sharing session for everyone. A few slides, and then we'll follow it up with a Q&A, and then we'll have Pratik join in for towards the second half of the conversation. With that, Harveer, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Aneesh, and welcome everyone to this session. It's always a pleasure to be, speaking to a wide audience such as this, because I strongly believe that, when you are in this particular space of loyalty and consumer internet in general, all of us are consumers first, and anything a product person or a business person later. So it's always good to keep the feedback flowing, and also try and triage the use cases which may have worked in the past, which are not working today, but more importantly, look to innovation in the near future, and figure out what's going to work best for this country in general, right? So before we get into this whole world of super app, I put together a few quick stats just to orient today's conversation. And if we can move to the next one, please. Some of these will be very familiar to you, but just throwing some numbers out there. In India, e-commerce is going to take over modern retail. That's a strong belief. I was listening to an interview by Andy Jassy, very recently, in which he claimed that Amazon is only 1% of the world's retail footprint. But guess what? It's a behemoth in its own right. But the way we see e-commerce, at least for this country, given the kind of surge we've had in the recent few years, I think the future is very, very bright for e-commerce, right? We as a country are anyways a mobile-first country. Most of us leapfrogged the PC generation and straightaway, had our first experience of internet and data and content only on mobiles. So our belief is that mobiles will continue to gain share over all other types of form factors, and again, would be about 80-85%. And the third, interesting trend, and we are very, very glad that this is happening, is that e-commerce is democratizing access to goods and services that previously were thought of as a metro or a tier 1 city phenomenon. If you look at the last 4 or 5 years, the majority of the new users who are onboarding onto e-commerce are actually coming from tier 2 cities and actually beyond, right? Now, thanks to the wonderful network that India Post has and some of the other logistics innovations, an e-commerce parcel can reach multi-thousands of pin codes, if not lakhs of pin codes, which is our ultimate game, right? Just linking back to the data, a lot of us are consuming content. Again, statistics, I think Indians consume about 11 hours of content on a weekly basis per capita. That's a lot of watching, about an hour and a half every day, if you're trying to divide it. And video and social commerce, although it's nascent today, it's going to explode, right? We see the green shoots there, but it's a sector that's something which will probably shape shift a bit, but take us by the storm. And at the same time, we still believe that the omni-channel story that we've all been waiting for is still a bit nascent, right? There are people who started as online first and have been at it, and there are offline players who are trying to move into this online space. And there's a lot more ground to cover. And our story and our thought process behind Super App, Tata Neu as we call it, is actually stemming from a lot of these drivers. Tata Group, I don't think bears an introduction, but just to give you a sense of what our presence is, we have more than 30 industries that we are present in, and almost every ambit of a consumer's life as far as daily needs or occasional needs are concerned. So we have e-commerce, we have fashion, we have pharmacy, we have grocery, we have you name it when we have it, right? Probably with the exclusion of telecom, I think Tata Group has a coverage in all the sectors. So when we started thinking about Tata Neu and what Tata Neu brings to the consumers, if you can move to the next chart, please. So Tata Digital is a innovative combination of the brands which I would say are digital native. Brands like pharmacy giants, Tata 1mg, which is making very, very innovative waves in the healthcare market. Big Basket, one of the originals, OGs as the younger people like to call it, on the grocery side. Chroma has been a great omni-channel success story, right? But a wider gamut of brands which are beyond Tata Digital, which we are proud to partner with, and they all fall within the ambit of Tata Group. So IHCL is the company which runs Taj Hotels, Selections, Ginger, and so on. West Side, obviously, we all know and love. They have a much more youthful presence in form of Zudio and other stores. Tanishq, Titan, and multiple brands. They hold Tata Play, Cumin, which is an omni-channel experiment, I would say, by IHCL, in the food delivery space. And while we all kind of intuitively think about e-commerce being primarily a product and service commerce, I just wanted to underline that within the Tata Group, and this is borne out in our philosophy, we believe that going online can help us democratize access to financial services also, right? Again, you pick any statistics, but you will know that in India, financial literacy, financial planning, saving for retirement, insurance, etc., is deeply under-penetrated. And there is a lot more growth opportunity in bringing that set of financial services. Obviously, the traditional policy may not work, but as long as you are able to craft something which is bite-sized or maybe easily delivered electronically, there's a lot more that we can do there, right? So to summarize, for us at Tata Digital and as Tata Neu, financial services plays a very, very important role, both in terms of investments and insurance, right? So that's been our core focus as we grow out. And again, what you see on the screen is probably the first step we have taken. One can ask me a question saying that there are so many other Tata brands which are probably not on this chart in front of you. Maybe you don't see any airline out there, right? But the idea is that we had to start somewhere. So we have started with an initial set of brands. And as time progresses, you will see a lot more of all the Tata brands have their own presence on the Tata SuperApp, which is Tata Neu. Next chart, please. So we spoke about this, right? So we spoke about product commerce, your traditional electronics, grocery, etc. Services commerce is where we are a lot bullish on. We believe that bringing service commerce online is hard, because first you have to perfect the service commerce in its natural habitat, which is the offline space, and how do we bring the two together is going to be where magic happens. And financial services, I think we spoke about. We are also getting into the consumer financial services in a big way. I'm sure some of you, if not all, would have heard of the new credit card that we have launched in partnership with HDFC. So that incidentally ties very, very well together with our loyalty program. And I want to spend a couple of minutes on how we believe that loyalty kind of exists within Tata Neu ecosystem. If you can move to the next slide, please. So for us, our loyalty program is not just about the ability to earn some points. We believe that is what Aneesh calls as the phase one, or the first era of loyalty, which is very transactional, which is only about giving customer some sort of a reward, which is a mathematical formula in exchange of a transaction. We believe loyalty is much more than that, and that's why we have introduced something that we believe is going to evolve much more, but we are calling it as New Pass, which is actually a pass to a good life, right? So yes, there are loyalty related points, and we have taken a huge leap of faith by offering 5% of the value of your transaction back as new coins. What we've also done with new coins is that we have eliminated all terms and conditions, right? So once you earn a new coin, the beauty is that you can use it almost like you would use a currency. There is no minimum spend, there is no maximum spend, there is no restriction saying that you can use only 30% of the value of your transaction as new coins, nothing like that. Once you have earned a new coin, you are free to use it. You can use one new coin in a transaction, you can pay for the whole transaction using a new coin. The other thing which I would say is gaining momentum is the coalition nature of this loyalty program. And again, thanks to Aneesh and his team for helping us, realize this vision. We currently have our loyalty program live at about 10 brands, right? So when you're shopping at Big Basket, you are earning new coins that you can use at your the next day at the Taj Hotel. You're buying something from Tata Click, you again get new coins which you could pay for in your next pharmacy order, right? So the idea is to bring all of these things together. And I'm glad to share that since our launch at the beginning of IPL, in April, we have got more than 30 million New Pass members who have signed up with us in just a period of 5 months. So that just shows the attractiveness, but more importantly, the value that the consumers are able to visualize in a concept like New Pass, right? So we are looking at this as a lifestyle membership program, not just any traditional loyalty program. Free delivery is a benefit, unified membership is a benefit. We are working with our financial services partners, and I was mentioning, we are looking to provide built-in credit to a lot of people, right? At the same time, all of this is driven by some of the key pillars that we have established at the beginning of our program, which is payments and financial services, very, very tightly integrated with all the payment touch points. Customer 360 is what we believe just gives a lot more value to the consumers by being able to provide them a much richer and a much more contextual experience, right? And ultra fast commerce is something that all of our brands are pioneering. So BB, just to give you an example, has a service called BB Now, which delivers grocery in 15 to 30 minutes. And they are building it out in a very, very sustainable manner. So this is the current view of New Pass. Obviously, we are listening very, very closely to the consumer feedback. We are young, as I said, about 5 months into our public launch, and the kind of feedback that we are getting is amazing. I mean, we are seriously overwhelmed by the feedback. Not all of it is great, but that also helps us stay true to what we believe is that we want to build out a great consumer experience through New Pass, right? If you can move to the next chart, please. Yeah, just stating the obvious, I think all of us have seen the picture on the top left. Chairman had the IPL launch, and a few videos that we put around new pass. So eat, shop, repeat, or shop, earn, shop. So our tagline used to be shopping karegi shopping, which basically means that each transaction will give you the impetus to do the next transaction. So that's how we are kind of building a flywheel. Okay, we can move to the next one, please. All of these clips are on the YouTube. So that was a short kind of overview of what Tata SuperApp is. Aneesh, back to you for any questions that you may have or anything that the participants may have.
Yeah. No, I think, Harveer, firstly, I think some trivia. What does new mean, just for the audience?
This takes us down a memory lane. New is, it means very different things for us. So the way we came up with this name was it signifies something which is actually new, right? It's a new way of looking at Tata, and we just used it as a moniker to, people had this view of Tata as a very, very great organization. We said that let's do something that name just stuck there, right? So we built on that.
Got it. Harveer, I think Rome was not built in a day, and I think what you're trying to achieve as Neo is incredible, right? I know that over the last many years we've heard of. I started Capillary in 2008, and I think in 2008 I was told that Tata's want to launch a group program. And the fact that you've been able to do it in the last 2 years, from scratch, I think is incredible. I'm sure there'll be negative feedback. We'll all, and positive feedback. I guess it's just part of the game, right? So, also, to the point you made on shopping karegi shopping, right? I mean, I think there were a bunch of Twitter users who posted saying, "Look, we bought a TV with all the points we had across the group."
Yeah.
Right, and that's how powerful it's, right? I mean, if you can put your ICL points with your West Side stuff with everything, I think you as a family you would have enough to actually go out. So I think great. I thought some of those posts went viral as well, right? So it was a pretty incredible. I've never seen anyone talk about that for a coalition. So I mean, at the scale at which you have it, Tata, I think it was pretty incredible. Yeah. Perfect, folks. We have one question for you, Harveer, from the team. So the question is, how are new coins adjusted amongst different brands? I can ideally stay at Taj and get multiple Starbucks coffees for free. Eventually, some brand will bear the brunt on their P&L. Do you want to take that?
Sure. I would say that's a kind of thinking and comments that we heard when we were setting up this program. But I must tell you that, the kind of virality that we have seen, right? People using points, it's never a one-way street. So yes, there may be individuals who may stay at a property and use the coins to buy coffee, or, people said you will end up buying maybe potatoes and bread, but the flow is equally strong in the other direction. At the end of the day, what are brands looking for? They're looking for new consumers who probably have not experienced their services to come and, maybe make that next purchase, or maybe book the next day at ICL. And I would say that given the short period that we've been live, it's worked out actually pretty well, and it's getting stronger day by day.
Yep. Thanks, Harveer. Thanks so much for that. We also have Pratik joining us in. Folks, folks, Pratik needs no introduction, but Pratik is the CEO of Tata Digital. He was handpicked to build the Tata Digital business up. And so Tata Digital, as Harveer mentioned, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Tata Sons, with the purpose of creating future-ready businesses, basically creating consumer-centric, high engagement digital products. Right, that was the goal when Tata Digital was set up. Tata Neu is the first product out of the Tata Digital stable. So Pratik kind of co-founded Tata Digital in August of 2019. Before that, Pratik has been with TCS for 29 years. And in his last role, he was the global head for retail, CPG, travel, transportation, and hospitality. I think all that put together is roughly about 30% of TCS. So, and Pratik comes with great experience on having worked with some of the best consumer brands globally on insights on consumer and retail. With that, Pratik, thanks for joining us in. Thanks. I know you had to step out of a meeting with the chairman, so thanks so much for doing that for us. Thank you.
Anish, thank you for the introductions.
Perfect. So Pratik, let's start with the first question, right? Which is, we've been seeing massive digital adoption happening in India, right? Over the last 4, 5, 6 years now, and I'd love to hear your views on how can super apps, and that's not only a trend in India, but digital adoption across Asia has been quite ubiquitous, right, over the last 7, 8, 9 years. So how can super apps, enable large conglomerates like you to take part in this in the digital adoption in their country?
Yeah. So see, as you rightly said, right, India is probably seeing one of the biggest digital disruptions. So from Tata's, obviously we thought that we must participate in the massive disruption that is going on in India. And then we debated what is our right offering to participate in a massive scale to tap into this the new India's the digital transformation that is going through. So we first said, what do we have, right? What does Tata's have? I think what Tata's have is, some of the best consumer-facing brands today in India. Either they are number 1 or number 2 in the business, whether it is in fashion, electronics, grocery, pharmacy. You name the 4 top consumption categories of India, these 4 constitute almost 60% of India's consumption, right? We have a massive consumer base, almost to the tune of 120 million consumers. We have a very strong omni-channel footprint. And most importantly, I think we have the ecosystem that was required. So we said that if we have, and if you see the East China, some of the Southeast Asian countries have gone through this super app. So we also felt with this massive transformation that is going on in India, time was ripe for a super app to come and really become the one-stop shop for an Indian consumer, right? And to simplify their lives. And with the assets that we have, that I said, we felt that those are all required for a super app. You have the categories, you have the consumer base, you have the omni-channel footprint, you have the entire ecosystem. And that is where we said that our offering has to be a super app to tap into this digital transformation. Hence, we came up with this TATA Neu, which is what you see today. Anish.
Right, Pratik. So, I think with the kind of brands that you have, getting them together is, you can easily build the best coalition in the country, right? So, there's a question from, on saying, are they, that while, let me actually pull the question up here. This is a question from Puneet Kalia. While Tata SuperApp initiative is about bringing all the brands of Tata Group under single umbrella, governance could be a bit easy because it's in one group. What's your take if someone has to build a super app by bringing in brands from different companies under the single umbrella with different business model, different governance, etc., etc.? I know that, would love to hear your views on this, Pratik. Yeah.
So we always knew that, while absolutely you're right that Tata has the best consumer brands in some of the categories, but to be a true super app and to be relevant to an Indian consumer's life for daily and monthly needs, there are many areas that Tatas don't play yet, right? So obviously we knew upfront that yes, while the first phase will be to bring the top consumption categories of an Indian consumer into one app, into one digital front end. But there are many other consumption categories that probably Tata's today, don't offer. So the first principle was to build it in such a way that that we can tomorrow, if we feel that there is an area, say for example in education, right? And that's something that we don't play a big role today, or maybe in mobility, something that we don't play a big role. So there are areas tomorrow that we will definitely consider partnering with other brands in order to completely complete the entire consumer life cycle. But we felt that the first phase is about the daily consumption needs of a consumer, and hence those four consumption categories that we said. If they pretty much constitute 60% of the needs of a consumer, let's focus on that first, and then we will bring the other ones. Maybe travel next, maybe something else tomorrow. That is our thought process.
Makes total sense, Pratik. The habit forming funds first, and then you get on the other categories. That's perfect. So moving on, Pratik, the next question for you is, what could be the key learnings? It's been an incredible journey the last 2.5 years, and seeing it, from the sidelines, it's been interesting, but you've been in the hot seat, right? So, what could be the key learnings, for other conglomerates as they think about, doing a group program or a super app?
Yeah, I think we are still evolving. I think we're only 5 months into launch. So it will be very premature for me to say that I have learned. I think it is a process that will go on for the next 1 to 2 years. And then I can confidently say that this is what I have learned. But I think the most important part that you said is the habit forming part, right? So while I talked about the 4 levers of a super app, the fundamental and the most important lever that I did not talk about is what is the high frequency use case for which the person will open the super app every day, right? That's the most important part, right? Yes, you may have the brands, you will have the consumers, you will have the ecosystem, but still you need the high frequency use case. I think the Chinese ones have experimented with payments. Somebody has experimented with ride hailing. And our experiment in this, or our belief, is loyalty in this one. So we do believe that uh, uh, because of loyalty, the flywheel will happen, and that is how we have constructed the whole Tata Neu app around, that you can earn and burn everywhere. That is why we have built the flexibility. So you earn more, you burn more, and the flywheel starts. Now that's the belief and the offering that we will be the high frequency use case. Now, has that started working for us? 4 months, very early to say, right? But we are seeing signs of it. That yes, people who have new coins, which is our equivalent of points, we clearly see the propensity to come back to the app and spend is much higher, right? Much, much higher.
Right.
And I think that's an important belief. And that's something I can't say learning, but that's something that we will have to learn in the next couple of months to see how it works out. So that's one. I think the second one is, while we'll say that, absolutely technology is also very important in building such super apps, right? Lot of times technology is taken for granted in an app world, right? Because end of the day, it has become almost a commodity to build apps, and technologies are there. But I think we have to also realize that building the right experience in an app, building the right experience which appeals to 200 million consumers who may have a mobile phone that probably has the lowest storage, right? You have got 1,800 or 3,000 kinds of mobile devices and operating systems across our Indian ecosystem, our Indian consumers. And building for resilience and scale are very different when we build for what we have built. So I think one key learning is, a lot of times we take technology for granted and we'll build an app. It is not about building an app. You are building something which is you have to assume that you have to build for 100 million consumer. That itself is a mindset in the whole technology choices you make. Number one, right? To build that, you have to assume for huge amount of concurrency in sale event, right? You have to build for that. And third is you have to build for experiences across a massive Indian consumer base who have different ways of transacting, right? And they're used to a certain way of transacting today. So I think these are some of the key learnings that we all have learned, Anish, as we move along.
Right. You spoke about the concurrent users, and I mean, I would have been very afraid to launch anything in IPL, and I think it worked out, but would love to have you share some war stories of that, 2 weeks when, I think during the IPL launch, and, I think getting to 7 million downloads was remarkable in like barely a few weeks, but would love to hear some more stories on that.
We built this app on all the right principles and tenets. Cloud native, built on very high, I think, resiliency with enough backups and disaster recovery. We made sure that there is for data center, there are 2 backups for everything. All that we built, right? We had built for it. But obviously, as you rightly said, IPL scale was huge when you have got millions and millions of people coming to that app, right? So all I can say is that, I will not want to obviously tell what went through those days. But all I can say, to my previous question on key learnings, building a super app at scale for India, which probably is across 25,000 pin codes and 24/7, there are a lot of learnings, which probably I can take a separate session on.
Yep. There's a question here on, who would you bench? I mean, I'm sure you benchmarked, more than benchmark, you looked for inspiration globally, right? On Tata Neu, on the super app. So the question is, what's the benchmark for Tata Neu? Who have you taken inspiration from? And it follows with saying, what's the perceived competition for Tata Neu? And let's keep this, and then there's one more question I'll ask you after in the same lot.
I think it's a very important question, right? So we did look at all the super apps around the world. See, a lot of the super apps are built on either product commerce, which is shopping or commerce. Some are built around services only, like mobility. We haven't come across yet, maybe probably one in China, that offers product commerce, services commerce, and financial services in one app. So I think, at least all the apps that we looked around, we could not find anywhere. So we clearly said that, yes, we can benchmark ourselves separately on our product commerce with the shopping apps. We can benchmark ourselves on the services commerce against some of the travel apps or health apps. We can benchmark against our financial service and some of the fintech apps. But that's not the point. We are trying to construct a consumer journey in a way that when he comes to buy a grocery, or when he tries to buy, say, an appliance, he also gets a loan in the process. He also, we are able to know, and we're also able to give him a nice air ticket or a hotel stay. So this kind of a, I'll say, a consumer journey, which ties the various touch points of a consumer across shopping, across flying, across staying in a hotel, across taking a loan or insurance or going to a doctor consultation. I don't think we haven't seen anywhere. It's unique.
No, absolutely. I think the Tata Group in itself is very unique globally, and trying to do something across the group, I'm sure is, very, very different there. So Pratik, there's a question here. I think I'll skip this one. There's another question here, which is, that a lot of the brands that you have in the app, right, whether it's 1mg, whether it's Big Basket, have their own very strong consumer presence, right? And Tata Neu as a program is also available on those apps independently or at IHCL, etc. So the question is, how are you thinking about why would the consumer go to Neu, and is that important for you, or are you okay with the consumer going to individual apps as well? So yeah, how should one think about this problem as they launch a program?
We looked at it differently, right? We did not look at it in a way that a person should be confused of going to BB or Tata Neu. How we looked at it, let me tell you. See, we looked at it saying that we have our 120 million consumers, which we have today in Tata Group, which we have today in our whatever. And Big Basket by themselves probably can target up to 10 million customers. That's what they can do. They don't have anything else. If we don't have the super app, Big Basket will never be able to reach to the other set that I talked about. Right. So what does Tata Neu do? Tata Neu expands the Big Basket scope from the 10 million customer that they're able to reach today to the other 90 million customer they could not have it done without Tata Neu. And that is the way we look at it. We don't look at it as the same customer coming to BB and Tata Neu. We look at it as that cohort today that is not transacting on BB, but then potentially I can give them something and they will come to us, not only because of BB, because I'll give them something else, because of 1mg or something else tomorrow, right? So that is the way we look at it, as how we can expand the overall pie rather than saying the same customer will go on both. So that is a fundamental principle and philosophy on which this has been built.
Perfect. And Pratik, we've seen it in other programs that we run globally that generally the consumer behavior is that, you earn points on the usual transactions and then you spend it on something that, is aspirational, right? So are you seeing something like that happen here as well? And, would love to hear your views on, given the variety of brands you have, are you seeing any trend like that? Yeah.
We are seeing many good trends. We are seeing people buying phones, smartphones in Chroma, and obviously getting quite an amount of new coins, and then buying either in Big Basket or mostly fashion like shoes and all of that in Tata Click. See, because you have to understand the average order value in Chroma is almost 14,000 rupees, or even one, and person buying smartphone is 30,000 rupees, right? On our thing, you will almost get 1,500 to 2,000 new coins. And now the 2,000 new coins, actually you can buy 2 or 3 shoes beautifully, 5 t-shirts, or you can have a BB provision for almost 2-3 months. So that trend we are seeing beautifully across.
Got it. And that's the flywheel you really want to start, right?
That's exactly.
Yeah, that users who didn't buy from a brand historically are not part of those programs are now buying from that brand because they have, so that's, I have a question from, which is, I think, so again, we do have a bunch of conglomerate leadership on the call as well, Pratik, from other countries as well as India. And this is a question from one of them saying, how was the experience of a startup within a century-old entity like Tata, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so
I think no, I think that, and this is my advice to a lot of startups, right? See, for us, yes, we are a startup, but also we are a large startup, right? Because what we embarked on is not one use case, which typically maybe, I mean, any startup goes through one use case, you launch, you learn, you modify, then you launch further, bigger scale, and then you scale, right, over 3 years. That's the typical journey of a startup. What we launched is like almost multiple startups together, one big large startup, right? So for us, what was required for us is obviously a culture of nimbleness and agility across all levels, whether it is decision making and everything, but also a deep sense of culture of discipline, rigor, and process. Because when you launch a super app, you are not experimenting. You have crossed that stage of experimenting. Startups experiment and then do multiple experiments. We are not experimenting anymore. So when you are not experimenting, then you require a very strong rigor in processes and systems and tools to make it viable. And that
right,
is where Tatas bring in. What Tatas bring is this very strong sense of rigor in maturity in processes and tools and systems. However, we cannot also say that we will not try out new things, because as I rightly said, right, yes, our new pass is something that we believe will work and we should work, but then we have to try out newer experiments, right? So this whole this, and we have to test new hypotheses, right? We do have an hypothesis on some category, we want to test a new hypothesis. So I think what gives us is, with BB, 1mg and all of them together, it gives us the agility to test new hypotheses quickly, right, and experiments. At the same time, not sacrificing the rigor and the tools that is required to make it successful. Both are required according to
yep. I mean, you have a reputation to like hold on to, right? I mean,
yeah,
it can't
yeah,
be like a startup that fail fast and all that stuff.
that,
You can't do as
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
very true, very true. So, Pratik, moving on, the next question is, how do you leverage consumer data? And what are the plans on that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, yeah. See, first of all, I want to tell that all the consumer data that we have a very strong consent architecture in place, because every company or brand is regulated by their own ways for on the consumer data. So, for example, Tata Sky is regulated by TRAI laws. So there are, every company has its own laws and rules on consumer data. So hence, we had to make sure that we build a very strong consent architecture, because what applies for a brand A may not apply for a brand B, because brand B may be in financial services, or brand A may be in some other sector where the rules are very different on consumer data, or maybe 1mg where we cannot even have some of their data because that's absolutely protected medicinal data, which we cannot, right? So I think we have to first make sure, where we made sure that we have a very strong architecture in place to adhere to all of these rules and regulations, that first of all every brand has the very respect of which industry they belong to, number one, right? And hence, and wherever we believe that consent is required, we have taken full consent for customers to migrate whatever they want to us. So I think that's what I want to first put out, saying that yes, we do have consumer data, but a lot of consumer data come from explicit consent from the consumers. Now, having said that, I think it is one of our I think again one of the deep hypothesis. What we said is, of all the consumers of Tata Group, one consumer A of brand A shopping in brand B of Tata Group, the intersection is minimal today. I don't want to say the percentage, but very few people will buy from a Chroma and from a Titan or fly in Vistara or whatever it is, right? So hence, as Tata Neu, right, which is probably one of our biggest aspirations and goals, is to how to really use these consumer data and the behavior and understand them well so that we can cross-sell each other's services. And that to me is one of the biggest aspirations of our super app. How do you cross-sell, right? If I know that somebody buys from X brand or certain subcategories, certain items, what do I do with that data to do something else in some other brand, right? And that is to me, is how we really want to use the consumer data in the future, so that we really become relevant to that consumer. See, we don't want to be the mass one for consumers. We are not in this for everything will find everywhere. Everybody will find everything here. We are not in that game. We really want to be relevant for the consumer. That's the way how we want to use the consumer data.
Okay, and I remember, Pratik, I think this was right when we started building. The first conversation was on, the consent architecture. That was how important this was, right? It was not an afterthought that 1 year into it, you woke up and said, look, I remember even during the eval, I think the amount of time that was spent on just saying consent architecture was incredible, right? So, and it was definitely not an afterthought of someone asking a question. It came right from day zero, and why that's super important. Lots of questions on this piece, actually, on GDPR, on data privacy and stuff. We'll skip them given you answered this. There's moving on next, this is more, Pratik, we also have a lot of users who are not from conglomerates, but from mono brands, and you've had, a lifetime of experience on the consumer and digital side globally, right? So a question on that, what are the consumer and digital trends that you're seeing emerge?
If I was in TCS, I would have said about TCS. So I think I will now talk about a little bit about India. I personally believe that India has done a phenomenal job in building the stack for payments. I do believe. So definitely, and the more and more it will get evolved. So I do believe that there'll be a significant innovation and that will happen on the entire financial service in the payment side. I do believe that. Not just number one. Number two, I think the second one will be, which is probably still a little bit out there. I mean, India is a land of many vernaculars, many languages. Absolutely. Many people are still not digitally savvy to discover and shop products, right? So, and I think there is already a lot of work happening, and will be a lot of work happening. But how do you enable consumers of different languages in their vernacular discover, shop, browse in a much different way from what they are doing today, right? And today it is a very e-commerce culture. So I think that's something will go through a tremendous amount of reimagination and thinking that will go through. I know a lot of companies are working on many stuff, especially in US and all. The third will be there will be, I think, a lot of focus on supply chain and infrastructure. I do believe while the Western countries probably have done a significant amount of work on automation, we are seeing the adoption of 10 to 15 minute deliveries now, right? With the instant commerce coming in. But if we have to really be much more efficient in that instant commerce, the technology adoption has to be significant in that, right? If you have to be much more efficient in terms of costs and speed and all of that. I think today there's a lot of people involved, but I think there will be a lot more work and technology and innovation that will happen in reimagining this entire supply chain, because instant commerce will become an habit in the future, whichever way you look at it, right?
Yep.
So I think these are the, I think there, I mean, there are a lot more. I mean, I can talk about metaverse, IoT, blockchain, all of those definitely are the ones that that I think will happen. But those are ones I'm not sure will scale in the next. It will take time. It will come. It will scale in the next 3-4 years. Definitely, it will come. It will come in some industry. But I think the more tougher problems to solve is what I said. Last one I will add is sustainability. Right. I think that again is a very important one. I'm sure somebody will find green commerce very soon. I'm sure there are a lot of startups on green commerce. Green commerce will not be today, but will happen maybe 2-3 years down the line. You will have green commerce companies.
Yep. I think as people have more disposable income, I think people are switching to brands saying, in fact, if you look at Zomato now, most of their ads on saying we actually save more plastic than we used to deliver, right? I mean, who would have thought like 5 years ago that a food delivery company will talk about plastic saving, right? I mean, it's just and that's probably getting them premium users who don't need a discount, who are more conscious about this whole thing, right? So you're absolutely right. I think green commerce, I mean, the 100 million people in India who have money have started thinking about that more seriously, right? So I think that's the...
At commerce, then we had social commerce, then we'll have green commerce.
Yep. One more question for the same group, Pratik, which is, leadership lessons on, as brands move from offline to omni-channel or want to power seamless experiences for the users. Any leadership lessons for senior CX leaders, right? So,
see, I think biggest leadership lesson that I can obsess on product. We always say that product is marketing. That's what Apple has taught us, that product is marketing there. You don't have to market. But I think we have to obsess on the product. Sometimes we get, not that, we do a lot of things, and rightly so, on marketing and everything else. But if the product is good, if the experience is world-class, and you have the right product market fit, that's to me is the biggest lesson that I can give to everybody. Obsess only on the product. That's all. Nothing else. Marketing will happen after that.
Yeah, if it's a great product, it will anyway take off.
To me,
in that sense.
That's the biggest lesson and biggest thing that I will do is just get the product better, richer, innovative, differentiated, unique.
Perfect. I think that's, I thought you would have 5-6 lessons, but one very sharp lesson. Absolutely right. I think, perfect. So, going on to audience questions, Pratik. So there's one question which has come in again, which is, how much time did it take from conceptualizing to actually launching? And you're a group of, and you had to get it right the first time. Like you said, you can't, so we do have a lot of groups on the call who want to launch a program, and I've constantly had this anxiety of how much time and all that. So would love to hear your experience and what would be the right time frame for them to think about doing
you should
something
not
like this.
compare with us, because if you ask me, we launched probably 9 startups in the process because we launched a large one, right? I don't think we should compare with us because it was a very different concept. But if we had almost 10 brands from day one, we had a full-fledged loyalty program in place, we had a full-fledged payments in place, right? We had everything. So I think, that is. But I think the question is that my only thing will be that concept to launch, but there is no timeline. But the product has to be best in class before you launch. That's my only advice. So
Right.
it doesn't, even if you take another 6 months to launch it, but you should be best in class.
Got it. Pratik. So I think there are a bunch of questions also on monetization. That how would you monetize a super app? How would you're giving points of how would you end up monetizing it? I mean, it's a good question. So yeah.
I think that we have. I think I will not too much. It is based on a standard industry model of commissions and fees. So I think that's the standard model, and that's the way we'll monetize. And there are many other ways, which I'll answer in a separate session. I mean, there are many other thinking categories, financial services, and all of that are there where we can monetize.
Right. So basically, it's getting the user into the app and then having them, buy more services. Basically, delivering a better experience to them, and as part of that, you will anyway be able to monetize
any other market model. Yeah.
Perfect. We have 21 questions, so I'm just reading through some of them. I'm going to pick this. The question on India being a price-sensitive versus brand-sensitive market, right? And and we've seen that war play out quite a bit, especially in the online world, right? So the question is how would do you think super apps will balance price sensitivity? Do you think brand loyalty is a driver on that?
We strongly believe on this that if our value proposition is strong, very strong, then we do believe that that we should not we should not only focus on price sensitivity. That's the point I will say, that we have to really, if our proposition is right, like how I talked about our new pass proposition, and hopefully we will refine our new pass proposition over the next several months on to make it stronger. And we have also heard all the consumer feedback around that, so we'll take into all that consideration. Proposition is strong. I think price, yes, it is important, but should not be the only criteria.
Right. I think there's one last question. In the startup world, Pratik, they say launch early, fail fast, move fast, right? And you also mentioned about getting all that consumer feedback. And that happens when you launch and then you get all the feedback, right? So the question is how relevant and important was it for you to adhere to the principle of at scale launch and launch at scale, and how did you deal with the pressure of saying we have to get it first time right, while you also will always have feedback, right? How much ever you do, you will continue to have, and you also launched a fairly wide app, right? Not just one use case. So yeah,
I think it's a balance, right? I mean, you have to choose the balance, right? While you will never be perfect, you will never be right always, right? So you have to choose the balance, saying that if you keep on working on it, then you will not know the consumer feedback, because the amount of consumer feedback we have got from not only tier 1 but tier 2 and all of that is phenomenal, and the kind of things they have suggested us is fantastic on how they want to see how to use a super app, not an app, right? So I think it's a fine balance, that I will say, but and that you have to choose. I don't know whether there is any answer, but definitely I must say that you must launch the app definitely to get it. See, for us, it is very, again, I will again say that you cannot compare with us, because we are launching at scale. We are launching a large app, and we are launching with a very different environment with the Tata Group in mind. So I think we should, and we are launching 100 use cases into one. So I don't think we should compare with us in that way. But I must say that the important thing that we should say that we should keep evolving. That's the important part. I feel that while, yes, what we have launched, and if you have feedback, and if you really believe in it, then you should evolve quickly. The problem is we don't sometimes evolve. We keep on going down the same path. And that's a mistake we should not do. The mistake that we should not do is just going on the same trajectory. If you feel that something else has to be done and there's a strong consumer feedback on something, you have to evolve quickly. You have to change trajectory sometimes. And it is okay to change trajectory just to make sure that you're going the right direction. And that's something we must be very, very clear about.
Yeah, and having seen it firsthand, going from a non-native experience to a native experience on some of the big basket and stuff like that, the speed at which you pulled it off was incredible. I think although the launch was a non-native one, and then moving to a fully native experience, and then the feedback post that, I think those are the kind of stuff. Absolutely, I think you'll have to.
Made BB native in 2 months because we got the feedback that we were not able to shop in BB, right? So like that, I think the trajectory, we have to just move on the right trajectory, keep on evolving. I only say keep on evolving, embrace change, listen to feedback. Feedback is good. No, I say every feedback is one test case that you are testing, and then you should move.
You actually have this habit of, you have a daily stand-up where you look at all the feedback that you get and categorize, right? I was in one of those sessions, team, and it's incredible, at the scale to have a very filtered view of, look, here's what the feedback's talking, and on a daily basis, right? That's the level of,
we look at
the iterate basis that,
So we look at almost daily on almost 1,000 items of feedback, obviously in a much more organized way. And we decide which has to go next day or next day or next day. So it's an evolving process. We have only been 4 months. It is evolving. Yeah, you're right.
Perfect. Pratik, thanks so much. We're already 7-8 minutes over time. Thanks so much for the time. It's been a pleasure for us to work with the Tata Digital team. It's been a true partnership. So thanks so much for doing that. And thanks for also making it today, and stepping out of the other important stuff you had. Thanks so much for that. Thanks.
First of all, Anish, and I must say, thank you for your sponsorship, commitment, and partnership with us. And thanks for having me. Thank you. Bye.